to the Barcode Podcast with your host, Chris Glandon, serving cybersecurity straight up with no chaser. Let's hit the bar and grab a drink.
Hey, Chris, how goes it, man?
Hey, not bad, Tony.
Check out that guy over there. See him at the high top?
Oh, yeah. The guy with the black hooded sweatshirt, ski mask, gloves, the one with the sinister grin. Yeah, I see him.
Yo, hardcore hacker, bro. Hardcore hacker.
I doubt that, but okay, I'm listening.
I've seen it in the movies, bro. These professionals lurk in their mom's basement, only using Linux. And typically, their evil crime boss usually murders them in the end because they lack social skills to figure out how they're being used. You be careful, bro.
You watch too much TV, bro. That is a major Hollywood cliche. Number one, hackers aren't always bad guys. And number two, hackers in real life look like normal people, just like me and you.
Whoa. Speak for yourself there, Skippy. I like to think of myself as having an above average appearance. Thank you.
Well, you know, that's sort of irrelevant here.
So who is this guy then?
Well, it looks like your hacker just grabbed his snowboard. Seems to be your ordinary, run-of-the-mill slope rat.
That might explain it.
Well, dude, I need a drink. What can you hook me up with?
Well, in tonight's menu, we have the Neon Nightmare. It's 1 ounce coconut rum, 1 ounce of blue curacao, 1 ounce of melon liqueur, and 1 ounce of sour apple pucker. Pour it all into a tall glass with ice. You can top it off with some pineapple juice. Garnish with a cherry if you'd like.
Thanks, dude.
You got it, man. We'll see you next round.
Oh, by the way, what was that snowboarder sipping on?
Just some pineapple shit.
Damn it. Magda Chelly is a keynote speaker, serial entrepreneur, and a senior security expert. She is a strong activist for women in security and founded Women on Cyber in Singapore, which is focused on supporting female professionals in the industry. She is also the founder of Responsible Cyber and a member of the advisory board for the Executive Summit at Black Hat Asia. She has conducted research on cybersecurity, the future of localization and positioning, education, and more, with publications featured by the IEEE, RSA, CyberSec, World Congress on Internet Security, Cyber Risk Leaders Magazine, among many, many others. A true honor to have on the show today. Magda, welcome to Barcode.
Thank you very much, Chris. It's absolute privilege to be on the show with you today.
No, I'm glad to have you on. So I'd like to kick things off by getting to know more about you and how you got into the cybersecurity field.
It's a very interesting question. I will start by saying that I'm an absolute computer addict and a workaholic. At least that's what my friends and my family call me. So I love working on the computer. I love reading about computers. And I have been definitely hacking for a very long time for my own spare time. I am in no way the best hacker out there. I'm actually, I would say, a script kiddie if I want to be really, in the terms that we use in the hacking. But I just love doing it. Now, when did I start? It has been since many, many years ago. So first of all, I did not plan to work in cybersecurity or did not even study cybersecurity as such. I studied in telecommunication engineering and continued with a PhD and a thesis in the same. Now, when I was doing my research, I was spending many hours in a lab research by myself, trying to ensure that I code properly on MATLAB and define the next positioning system that would revolutionize positioning in complex environment. Anyway, if anyone wants to read about that, it's actually a fascinating topic. But doing that every day by yourself in a research lab definitely at some point becomes boring. So I was really searching for a distraction. I needed something else to look at, to read about, and this is how I started looking around cybersecurity and hacking. Obviously, it wasn't about cyber risk management. I was just trying to hack certain things because I was just, trying to find something exciting.
That's an awesome, awesome story. So were you self-taught or did you seek out formal education?
Well, Chris, that didn't work when I tried to hack anything when I was doing my PhD at that time. Let me tell you this. So the self-taught didn't work very well. I needed to take definitely some additional courses and practice more and get around surrounded with real professional hackers who know what they're doing so I could gain some real skills. At the beginning, when I was again trying, we're talking many, many years ago, it was literally funny because I could not hack anything at all. I didn't know where to start. I didn't know where to end. And especially, I did not know what to search for. So I think when, we look at younger generations or teenagers who are willing to start in the field, not everyone is able to find the right information that will help them to learn the skill. Now, again, nowadays we have much more resources comparing to many years ago. When I was still studying, there was not much about hacking unless you wanted to download the malware.
Yeah, exactly. And, I often find that the term hacker is just misused all the time in many, many ways, with its intention often being synonymous with evil. And in actuality, most of us are hackers. If you've ever rooted your phone, you're a hacker. If you've ever got anything to function in a way that it wasn't meant to function, you're a hacker. Although if you're pursuing a career as an ethical hacker or a pen tester, then there are definitely some awesome programs out there to help you develop that interest and to help you grow professionally.
Yeah, absolutely. And the term has evolved into such a negative, understanding by the general public. So again, when someone doesn't really understand what it means and tries to search for the term, they might find really the irrelevant information or things and resources that are not adequate, and they do not show exactly what it is about. Like you said, it's more around initially, or actually the fundamental definition of a hacker is someone who's passionate about computers and understands very well how they work. Now, later on, of course, with the media, with all the movies and everything, the hacker term took that turn and became only the bad folks who are trying to get into systems that they should not and are performing crimes. So I think there's really a need to address the general media and change that perception from the public.
Yeah, we're talking about the Hollywood hacker, right? The stereotypical, hacker that you see on TV or in the movies with the black hood, typing into a terminal screen, attacking worldwide corporate networks everywhere, causing massive destruction. And, from the outside looking in, it's sort of easy to buy into that portrayal because those that aren't from within our industry are sort of blind to what an actual hacker is and what they do. And not to say that, some hackers may actually work in their mom's basement. But typically, it's just not the reality. So I feel like it's our responsibility, as the security industry to try and rewrite that narrative, that storyline to align more with the truth. Now, because our industry benefits, though, in a way from the interest that comes with the Hollywood image, in terms of awareness, how can we address that misconception?
I think it's a question that is valued at $1 million, Chris. If we find the perfect answer on how to address that misconception about hacking and cybersecurity in general, we definitely, solve one of the biggest challenges around the world. Now, if we look at, I would say, the issue with cybersecurity and the perception that traditionally all the general public have, it relates to the fact that we are using too much technical jargon, and people who are performing those particular specific activities are not collaborating with cybersecurity professionals. And this exactly is the same that happens within businesses themselves. We find organizations where the business does not collaborate with cybersecurity professionals. So what actually is the fundamental issue is this communication between those two words, and making sure that one understands a little bit more the other, and they're able to bring an accurate image and a realistic vision of what each of them is doing.
Yeah, very interesting perspective. So, yeah, Hollywood directors listening to this podcast, hit us up. Let's talk. I believe there's a way to portray the edginess of a hacker and what hackers do while still making it accurate as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that leads me into my next topic, which is cybersecurity awareness. So I'm a big proponent of aiming to educate and train others through unorthodox ways and creative ways. So I'm curious, from your experience, what methods have you seen that resonate with both a cyber savvy and non-cyber savvy audience?
I think, Chris, as well, what we have seen in our industry is that generally cyber awareness is perceived as a compliance or check the box exercise. Unfortunately, still today, companies are continuing to do that without solving the main challenge, which is actually the humans' awareness, because they represent the weakest link. And we know that most of the cyber attacks happen because someone clicked on a link or opened an attachment. And the traditional PowerPoints, boring presentations with technical jargon do not work. We know it. We absolutely are all aware of that. However, we continue to do it. So ensuring that we take, as companies and as cybersecurity professionals, the cyber awareness a little bit further as a social responsibility, not doing it because we need to do it, but because we really want to help. We really would like to make an impact and make a critical change with the masses, because this topic is relevant for people in general, not only for companies. Everyone nowadays is using technology. They need to be cyber aware, not because cybersecurity is part of a company strategy, but because it is part of their daily life in general. So changing the mindset from it is just an activity that we do as part of a cybersecurity strategy or a compliance checkbox to taking it as our social responsibility as cybersecurity professionals will definitely make a change. Now, this is the mission. This is the goal and objective. What would make real change? But how to implement it afterwards is as well extremely important. Again, going into traditional cyber awareness, it just doesn't work. And therefore, finding innovative ways into raising the cyber awareness should be a priority for a cybersecurity team. We have seen a lot of gamification in this space, creating certain games, creating funny videos, ensuring that the content is engaging, that there is interactions with the users. Those are fascinating aspects and definitely help to ensure that the users do not just click on the buttons and not read or not listen to the message. However, it's all about the overall culture. So again, when we want to achieve a change, it is not only by running one activity that is different, but rather building a whole program that ensures that cyber awareness is addressed on different kind of levels with the different messages that are appropriate for the audience. So not the same applies, for example, for the IT department as for business people or sales people. You might need to adapt your message as well. So it is not that straight answer. However, having the mission and the vision very clearly defined, then making sure that we change the way of how we are running it today into a more efficient and a more user-friendly approach is definitely the key. I have something to add as well, Chris, because you asked me about awareness related to cybersecurity professionals as well. And I do believe that there is this topic that we don't discuss enough, like the cyber awareness from our industry or for our industry as professionals. And I think where or how that actually fits in is to ensure that not only the employees of the companies are aware of cyber risks and cyber threats, but as well we as cyber professionals are able to understand and be aware of the company's business and exposures from the business perspective, not from the cybersecurity only. So we are able to clearly communicate with the business stakeholders and not only discuss from our perspective, which is cybersecurity, but rather address as well business priorities and goals.
Agreed. Yeah, one prime example I've noticed was a very popular LinkedIn post that you published not long ago. So if you wouldn't mind, could you speak to that just a moment and let us know about the message there and just how that went viral?
Thank you, Chris, for bringing this up. I think it's a fascinating use case where we clearly see what actually raised and increased awareness and engagement from the general individuals around the world. We're not talking about cybersecurity professionals. We're talking about people, just random people going onto social media and seeing my video. And for the backup of the facts, because it's important to take the use case, is a video that I have made and co-produced with Cisco, where there is a very simple message mentioning cybersecurity is a social responsibility. Everyone has a role to play. And then there is some animation that shows icons of malicious cyber threats. And on the other side, communication and data, or icons reflecting that. Now, this video has reached more than, I think, 200,000 views across various platforms, LinkedIn and Twitter. LinkedIn today, as per today, has more than 90,000 views, and Twitter has more than 146,000 views, or 45,000.
Wow.
So I was very surprised as well, positively, of course, surprised about the interactions, the views, the likes, and the sharing. But actually, it's a use case. It shows that people do not need extensive messages. You just create a simple video with icons showing the cyber threats flying into a mobile phone, and then that creates more awareness than anything else that you have ever imagined. How amazing is that? The video was extremely short as well, which is another factor that contributed to its success. But I think it was absolutely fantastic.
That's amazing. Straight to the point and easier to consume versus forcing someone to read a white paper, for example.
Absolutely. And I mean, we are overwhelmed by information and data everywhere. And nowadays, with, of course, the pandemic still going on, we are all the time connected. We are all the time in need to be over meetings, over Zoom or Teams or whatever other tool. And we are just overwhelmed by information. So we cannot keep that going with extensive white papers, like you mentioned, Chris, or any other content that will make feel the public or the individuals tired from the technology, tired from the information and data that is not relevant. Something that is funny, something that is short, something that is really straight to the point, engaging, different, will make it much better or will achieve much better results than anything else. Another successful example, Chris, which is slightly different, is a documentary about the dark web, where I have been as well sharing my insights about cybercrime in general. And in this particular case, the documentary called, again, The Dark Web was actually produced by the channel News Asia and is available for streaming, is addressing cybercrime, not cyber attacks, cybercrime. It is showing how criminals can use technology to actually perform crimes that might lead to harm, might actually harm people, might affect people's lives. And this has been as well a success. People have been talking about it, very much exchanging about the general scenarios, how those crimes happened, wanted to read about them more. And as per my latest statistics, it also reached 300,000 views on YouTube, and that is not the full documentary either. So the general public is interested in that. We just as an industry didn't find the right way to communicate about those topics. Again, because we look at them from our perspective. We need to put ourselves more in the shoes of people who do not have any knowledge around cybersecurity, who are eventually even technologically agnostic. They are not used to all the technical jargon, and then try to have a message that will be clear for them.
Nice. So where can our listeners find that documentary if they wanted to check it out?
It is available on the Channel News Asia website, so that should be available to anyone. If not, it's available as well in Germany in a German version and in France in a French version. So the Germany version is available on the website of ZDF Info, and the French version is available on Canal Plus, which are both actually premium services.
Got it. Thanks so much for sharing that. I also wanted to mention that you wrote a romance sci-fi book as well that included a cybersecurity angle to it. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
Absolutely, Chris. Thank you again for bringing that up. I'm so excited about it. It's my first book ever. I am also releasing the second book, but the second book is more about cybersecurity, and it's actually a collaboration. It's more serious. While this one that I'm publishing by myself is actually a book that is supposed to raise cybersecurity awareness into the mainstream media. Why? Because, again, we are not talking about a cybersecurity book. We're not talking about cyber awareness that is seen from a traditional perspective. We are talking about a real book about romance, adventure, and crime that actually brings up real scenarios, that brings up accurate facts about how cybersecurity might be affected, how cyber crimes happen, how hackers behave, and even the main character is actually called Vera. She is a Polish hacker.
Oh, okay. Very cool. So who would you say is the primary audience then for this book?
I would say the audience is everyone who want to be entertained, and that's the objective. So now within that audience, there will be definitely, I would say, teenagers who are still interested in this kind of books, and then definitely, more general public who is looking at some books, for example, to buy for Christmas or New Year. Then rather than buying something where they will not learn something specific, while reading this book, they will learn a lot about cybersecurity without even realizing it. The same, we see a lot of series, again, about crime. This one is cyber crime, and it's realistic.
Nice. And what is the name of that book, and when is the release date?
It's Being Brave, and it's Vera's Cyber Adventures. The release date is, I'm hoping that it will be before the 30th of December, 2021.
I'm looking forward to it.
Thank you, Chris.
I can get down with a good romance novel.
That sounds great.
So I do want to hit on cyber risk in general. In all organizations, I think that there's awareness that exists at some level, but understanding the risk that needs to be addressed, it often differs depending on where you are located geographically. So I'm curious, from all of your travels and your wide array of understanding, how does the approach to cyber risk change from one region to another? And what are some of the different dynamics that you've observed?
Chris, I definitely have seen differences of maturity and understanding of cyber risk across the regions. We cannot, for example, compare a region where the regulation has been massively enforced comparing to another region where the regulation for privacy and cybersecurity is still maturing. There will be certainly a very strong correlation between both. And we can take a very simple example. In Singapore, we have the Monetary Authority of Singapore that has technological guidelines. Those technological guidelines include as well cybersecurity guidelines and will be imposed on financial institutions. Financial institutions need to follow them even though they are guidelines. And that actually is something that will obviously enforce a better or a more, I would say, advanced or mature approach to cybersecurity and cyber risk as well, because it's part of it. Now, if we go and look at other countries in Asia specifically, we realize that many of them do not have any regulation, or they're just starting building their privacy regulation. And I will not give example, not to just point out fingers, but there are many countries, they're still far behind. And they are looking at implementing that regulation within the next few months, even sometimes years, around privacy and cybersecurity. Again, there is a very strong correlation, and therefore there is enforcement or a general trend that shows that when there is regulation, there is more practical implementation from the company's side. Now, of course, there is a lot of many other aspects or perspectives that will help the overall ecosystem of a region or a country. And again, I would like to come back to Singapore. Singapore has a lot of strong and varied initiatives, not only to raise cyber awareness, but as well to clearly encourage people and companies to take in consideration cyber risk, to be more serious about it, to understand it, and to start building their capabilities around it. So I think if we look at the overall world, we have a very big difference in maturity still. We have inconsistency and different levels of understanding and mitigating cyber risk. And that, obviously, for me, it's a major challenge for companies operating globally, because they will just have inconsistency within, for example, different offices as well, which is a topic that is not always very often addressed.
Yeah, that's true. You have to look at infrastructure in other areas of the world as well, and understand that there could be limitations that exist that could reduce the capabilities or add another layer of complexity to securing those environments. Although regardless, I think that there is a common denominator in risk. If you run a business and you're handling sensitive data, then you have the same threat against you. It could just be, a different approach in the way that you mitigate it, right?
I think, from a very common sense, yes. If you are a business owner and you need basically to understand your own risks, today you are operating with technology, therefore cyber risk is your priority. That's from a common sense, right? But it's not that simple. Why? Because if we discuss cybersecurity or even look at the news, we realize that some of the articles are absolutely not readable by someone without cybersecurity or technical knowledge, which means that for them the cyber risk is completely intangible, completely obscure, and therefore they just consider the traditional IT risk, like, for example, servers going down or laptop going, broken or stolen, and that's it. And they pass on the real risk that might arise from cyber attacks. Now, there is also another part, Chris, that I think is interesting. So often when I discussed with business owner, they perceive cyber risk more around the data breach. And you mentioned data, that's why I'm bringing that topic. And they look at it and they will tell me, but we don't have personal data, or we don't have credit card data. They don't even realize that their own employees' name, bank account, personal address, that as well represent personal data. In Singapore, for example, that is not the name and surname, if available on the business card, is not considered as under the personal data scope. However, everything else like personal address, identity card number, of course, bank account, that is all part of the scope and needs to be protected. In case of a data breach, there is, of course, the possibility of a fine. Now, what happens in the cases where companies talk about data breach? First, they always associate cyber attack with data breach. They don't look at a cyber attack that might only disrupt their services or paralyze their activities without leading to a data breach. This is the first point. The second point as well that happens is that there is this perception that the financial losses associated with a cyber attack or a data breach are only the fines. So if there is no data breach, there's no fine, and I'm okay to continue my business as usual, I don't need to address that particular cyber risk more extensively because it's a cost. Now, here is where it is really interesting to use a different approach. And I call it quantification, and I love the topic. It has been one of my really most interesting part of research that I have been doing, where you try to show what are exactly the financial losses that might incur following a cyber attack. So calculating and finding those financial losses will clarify for the business owners that when there is a cyber attack, it's not only about the fines, it is as well about business interruption, profit loss, market share loss. It might be about recovery cost, employees overtime cost. It might be as well about third-party hiring costs, etc., etc. And there is a very long list. It might involve as well legal costs. So then it changes completely the perception. We're not talking about a fine. We're talking about really important financial numbers or just very high numbers. And that definitely changes the discussion and brings a completely different perspective.
Yeah, and you take a reputational hit as well, which could be crippling to your business, especially in SMBs, because one data breach could terminate all of your revenue. And as we all know, money is the universal language.
Absolutely. And the best way to communicate with the business owners and business stakeholders, talk money. But if you want to make it really relevant, coming from a cybersecurity perspective, you need to translate your cyber risk into scenarios that make sense to the business owners. If not, they will not understand. And then just bring the numbers and the impacts or effects from the cyber attack onto the business. I really like your example on reputation, Chris, and I'm aware that we're getting up to the time scheduled. But I actually receive this question often about reputation from business owners, from companies, small, big, whatever size they are. And they ask me, but reputational damage is not quantifiable. Well, first of all, a company builds reputation by communicating with customers, communicating over media, doing press releases. You build your reputation by ensuring that you build an image. That costs money. Now, if your reputation is damaged with a lot of articles online writing that you have been a victim of a cyber attack and a massive data breach, what you will need to do is to rebuild that reputation, and therefore go into the media, have interviews, inform about how did you address that cyber attack, how did you improve your cybersecurity posture to make sure that it doesn't happen again, etc., etc. That is money. That is cost for the company. And therefore, reputational loss is quantifiable as well.
I love that you pointed that out. Reputational loss does map directly to monetary loss. So you travel often, you speak publicly around the world, and since this is Barcode, I'd like to know, what is the coolest bar you've ever been to? Obviously, outside of Barcode.
I love the question, Chris. I think it's fabulous. So I have been, thinking, and I definitely came up with one bar that made an amazing impression on me, and it's actually Rina in Istanbul.
Wow.
It's an amazing bar club over the Bosphorus, and the view and the vibe and the music are all absolutely great, and I loved it. I loved it so much. I'm looking forward to going back there.
Wow, I'm booking my flight ASAP.
Yeah, can't miss it, Chris. Can't miss it.
And what do you normally like to drink? What is your drink of choice?
Chris, I need to make this joke. This is not a security question that allows password recovery. You're not asking me for the maiden name of, my mom. My first car. What's your favorite drink?
Yeah, your password isn't red wine 123, is it?
Well, no, my favorite drink is definitely red wine. So that I think is public knowledge already. So well found, Chris. And my second favorite drink is definitely margarita on the rocks.
There you go. So I just heard last call here. Do you have time for one more?
Yes, sure.
If you opened a cybersecurity themed bar, what would the name be, and what would your signature drink be called?
We have seen many drinks called kind of differently, and really being, I would say, almost a statements or quotes. So my drink would be called, in the menu, literally, hacking is the new sexy.
I like that. that would get my attention.
I think that would get the attention of many people, right?
Oh yeah. Have it at the top of the menu, and that will be the only drink you need to serve.
Might be.
And how about the name of a bar?
The name of the bar, I don't have something straight away, but it certainly would be around, a woman that was really powerful, smart, and able to be at the same time bringing a message of being a role model. So again, I am always trying to bring the image that there is no one particular image of whoever we are. Everyone has their own way of living. Everyone acts differently, and we are unique. So I like the perception that we have from certain specific profiles is all what we created as humans because of historical reasons or because of public media. So I want to bring something that, again, makes perhaps some buzz, but as well creates a little bit questioning and changes the perception. So the bar name would be something that relates definitely to, I don't know, Vera Cyber Adventures, maybe. Who knows? Maybe once, sometime in the future, I will open a bar that is at the theme of the book. Who knows?
Yeah, I really like that answer. So yeah, before we go, can you let us know where we can find you online?
So I have a personal website called Magda on Cyber. that we can add, of course, in the description of the podcast, I guess, Chris. But in general, I would definitely suggest people to just, whoever is interested, to continue the discussion, to Google Magda Chelly, and you will certainly find information. I'm very active on social media, LinkedIn, Twitter, but I'm as well on other media, and definitely sharing some of my research on different blogs. I have managed only to publish my research properly actually this year, because it was just scattered everywhere and it wasn't associated, but now I am adding it into Google Scholar. So slowly, there will be more and more resources there. There's definitely some different themes as well, not only cybersecurity, there's education, there's my old research as well. So I encourage everyone to look at that as well.
Well, listen, I love your approach, your perspective, and the awesome content that you continue to push out. Keep doing it. You know, I always look forward to the information that you share online, and, you know, hopefully on your next US tour, we can catch up and have a drink in person.
Absolutely. That would be a pleasure, Chris. Thank you so much. I would love to meet in person and have the opportunity to travel again. It feels like a long time I didn't go onto a plane. I'm not sure I even know how it works anymore. So, you know, I'm looking forward to take that again and just travel.
Definitely. Let's get together for a frozen margarita when you get here.
Sounds great.
Thanks again. You take care. Be safe.
Thank you very much, Chris.
Barcode patrons, if you like this episode and would like to support the podcast, rate us on Apple Podcasts and visit our Patreon site, patreon.com/barcode podcast. If you're interested in sponsoring the show, check out the barcodepodcast.com/sponsor. Cheers.
Unfortunately, it's time to shut the bar down for this episode. Thanks for stopping in. See you next time. We'll save you a seat. Be sure to check us out at thebarcodepodcast.com.